now we're going to learn how to compare and order fractions. So our objective is to compare / order any fraction, and this is page 10. All right, so one strategy that you can use is you can find a common denominator and rename the fractions so that basically they're cut into the same number of pieces. So if I look, I have 2/3 and 4/5. I take my denominators and I put them right here and I list out multiples. So I had started with 3 and I started with 5. So 3 times 1 is 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Did the same thing with 5, 5, 10, 15. I do that until I find a number that they have in common. They both have 15 as a common multiple, so that's going to be my common denominator. So now what I would do is I would take 2/3 and I'd bring it down here. And I know that my new denominator is 15, and this is what I didn't know. But what I can do is I know that to get from 3 to 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's times 5. So then I would do times 5 up here, and that's how I got this 10 right here, okay? And then I do the same thing to the other fraction. I pull this down over here, and 15 again is my new denominator. I see how did I get there? 5, 10, 15, so that's times 3. So I did times 3 up here, and 4 times 3 is 12, so that's where this 12 came from. Now, because they have the same denominator, I can just compare the numerators, just like whole numbers. What's bigger, what's smaller? Well, when I look at this, 12 is larger. Since 12 is larger than 10, that means 4/5 is larger than 2/3. So that means I can just put my symbol in. 4/5 is larger, so I know it's open to 4/5, or 2/3 is less than 4/5. All right. So now I want you to go ahead and try the next one. Compare those. Okay, so I'm going to find a common denominator. I've got 7 and 10, so I can list out multiples of 7 and 10. I can also do it in my head if I'm really good at my multiples. I know to be a multiple of 10, it has to end in a 0. 10, 20, 30, 40, they all end in 0. So I could also just think about multiples of 7 and find the first one that ends in 0. So I'm going to actually list it up here, even though I'm sure you can probably do it in your head. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56, 63, 70. Okay, I finally have gotten to one that ends in a 0. So that's going to be my common denominator, which would be 70. So this is going to be 70, this is going to be 70. I'm just writing it over here, shortcut, so I don't have to rewrite them. Now, how do I get from 10 to 70? Well, this would be times 7, so I need to do this times 7. So that's 21. How would I get from 7, this way, how would I get from 7 to 70? Well, that's times 10. So then I need to do times 10 going backwards. 2 times 10 is 20. All right, now I can just compare the two numerators that I have. I have 20 and I have 21. Well, 21 is bigger, or 20 is less. So that means my symbol, inequality symbol, has to go like that. Now, one other thing I can do, and this is called cross products, or you can cross multiply. You might have heard it called butterfly in the past. I can take my two fractions and I can cross multiply like this. And I can see what that would equal. 7 times 3 would equal 21. 10 times 2 would equal 20. And I can also compare this way. 21 is greater, so this fraction is larger, and this fraction is smaller. Now, just make sure, if you are using a cross multiplying method, that you always, when you multiply, you always write the answer on top. Because if you accidentally write the answers on the bottom, it's going to give you the opposite of what the actual answer is. Okay? I recommend doing up this way, and then maybe use this to check your answer. Okay? Go ahead and try the next one on your own. Okay, so we find a common denominator. In this case, you could list out multiples of 9 and 2, and the first one you would hit would be 18. And 2 times 9 is 18, so times 9, 1 times 9 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18, so 5 times 2 is 10. Now, in both of these examples, when I multiply 7 and 10, I got the least common denominator, and same thing here. That's not always the case, so don't get used to just doing that. I mean, it will work, but it might not be the least common denominator, okay? So you can always list multiples to check. All right, so now, again, I have 10 and I have 9. Well, 10 is greater than 9, so that means 5/9 is greater than 1/2. And again, I can check my answer by doing this, just to make sure. 5/9, 1/2. I'll cross multiply. This would give me 9. This would give me 10. 10 is bigger, so this fraction is larger, which is what I put. All right, now, when you're ordering fractions, now there is a trick. If you have, of course, if you have the same denominators, you can just compare the numerators and put them in order. But if you have the same numerators, you can also use some logic to put them in order. If you think about the denominator as the number of equal pieces, you could also think of it like a pizza. If I have a pizza, the denominator is how many slices the pizza is cut into. Or you could think about how many people you're having to share that pizza with, okay? If I like pizza, so I'd want the biggest piece. So who would I rather share with? Would I want to share with 5 people, have 3 people share the pizza, or have 7 people share? Well, I would rather have 3 people share because that means I'm going to get a bigger piece of the pizza, okay? So that's a way you can think about it. And we're going to actually order this ascending order, which means what? Least to greatest. So if I think about this, which one would give me the smallest piece? If I'm looking for the least, if I share with how many people, that would give me the smallest. Well, the more people I share with, the smaller the piece I'm going to get. So since these are all the same, all I have to do is kind of compare the denominators, and you actually just put them backwards of what you would think. So the largest denominator is actually the smallest because it's the more people you're sharing with. So 2/7 would have to be the smallest piece. And then, well, next, if I shared with 5 people, I'd have a little bit more pizza, but still not a whole lot. So this would be next. And then 2/3 would be the biggest, because if I was only sharing with 3 people and I got to get 2 of those slices out of 3, that means I would have a lot of the pizza. Okay, and again, I'm going to draw a little picture to back up my reasoning here. Here's the pizzas. Okay, so 7s, let's see if I can make 7s. 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not exactly equal, but close enough. You get the idea. So 2 of those pieces, 1, 2. That's how much 2/7 would be. Now 2/5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 of those pieces. Again, it's a little bit more, not a whole lot more, but it is a little bit more. And then 2/3, 2 pieces. You can easily see that that's a lot more of the pizza, so that's the greatest. Okay. Another way to compare, especially when you don't have all the denominators the same or all the numerators the same, you can't use that logic, you can find, just like here, you can find a common denominator for all 3 or however many fractions that you have. So I'm going to look at my 3 denominators. I have 6, 12, and 4. Now, you might be able to do it in your head. If not, that's okay. Just write 6, 12, 4, and we're going to list multiples. So 6, 12, okay, well, I already got 12 there, and that's 12, so does 4 go to 12? Yes, 4, 8, 12. So right here, I have found what my common denominator would be. going to be 12. So I need to get each of these fractions to have 12 as the denominator. Well, luckily, I don't have to change this one because it's already in 12ths. So now I'm going to do 5/6. Now, how do I get from 6 to 12? Well, this would be times 2. So I need to do times 2 up here. 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, and now I need to change 3/4 into 12ths. How do I get from 4 to 12? Times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So now, if I look at these, I have 12ths in all three fractions. So I'm going to compare the numerators. I've got 10, 7, and 9. And this time, why don't we do descending order? Which means greatest to least. Okay, so out of these, which one is the greatest? 10/12 is. So I'm going to actually put them back in original form though. So 10/12, which was originally 5/6. And then next would come the 9, which was originally 3/4. And then last would come 7/12. All right, and last one, we're going to do this back to ascending, which is least to greatest. Now, aside from finding common denominators, some of you might be really awesome at changing fractions into decimals, and you're really good at comparing decimals. So that's another strategy you could use. You could turn all your fractions into decimals and then put the decimals in order. So that's what we're going to do here. Go ahead and start converting these into decimals, and then we'll put them in order. All right, so 2/5. Again, we can start memorizing some of these, and it helps us to get faster. And if you don't have them memorized, that's okay. Start by dividing. Don't forget ice cream, so the 2 goes in the freezer. 5 does not go into 2. Add a decimal and a 0. 5 goes into 20. 4 times. All right, so this is 4/10. I'm going to write it right underneath the fraction so I don't accidentally get confused as to which one's which. Okay, 4/9. I'll do that right here. Does not go in. 9 goes into 40. Well, 9 times 4 is 36. Subtract, that's 4. I add a 0 and bring it down. Well, guess what? I had 4 here. It's going to go into 40 again. 4 times, which is 36. So I can see now that this is repeating. Okay, so this is 0.44 repeating. And now I need to do 7/15. 15, 30, 45, 60. So that's going to go in 4 times. A lot of 4s here. That's 10. I'm going to add a 0, bring it down. All right. 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. That's going to go in 6 times. 100 minus 90 is 10. Well, that means when I add a 0 and bring it down, it's just going to repeat. So this 6 repeats. The 4 doesn't, just the 6. All right, so this is 0.46 repeating. Okay, so now I'm going to sort of circle these so that they separate so I can see them easier. All right, I've got 4/10, 44 hundredths repeating, and 46 hundredths repeating, 6 repeating. Okay, so now I need to put them from least to greatest. Well, it would help me if I add a 0 here because these both have 2 digits right now. So if I put a 0 here, then it's like 40, 44, and 46. I can just pretend like they say that. Well, the least would be the 40, so that would be 2/5. I'm gonna go ahead and write the decimal and the fraction. Okay, and then next would be 44. And next would be the 46. So wow, they were already in order. So that means 4/9 would come next, 7/15. So there's my answer, back in fraction form. All right, so you got several different strategies you can use, and keep practicing. See you next time.